Hello and welcome everyone. In this part, we are going to talk about the law of demand. This is the second part of the video. In the previous part, we have already talked about what demand actually means, what actually constitutes a demand, and we came to know that demand, a desire backed by capacity to pay, is only constituted as demand. So, the law of demand simply states that when the price of a good falls, its demand increases, and when the price of the goods rises, its demand decreases, which means that the law of demand shows inverse relationship between price and quantity. That is, when price increases, demand falls, and when price falls, demand increases. So repeat after me. The law of demand simply shows the inverse relationship between price and quantity. That is, when price increases, demand falls, and when price falls, demand increases. The law of demand holds good only when the factors influencing demand like income of consumer, price of substitutes, price of complements, change in taste, fashion, etc. do not change or are held constant. Like already in the previous video we have discussed in the later part that there are few factors which affects demand. Only when those other factors which influences demand are held constant, we will get a purely inverse relationship between demand and price. The so this topic we are going to pick up later again. In the bracket we can see it's written ceteris paribus. Ceteris paribus means nothing but the other factors that influences demand are held constant. We assume that the other factors like change in fashion and change in income and price of substitutes and all the other factors are held constant. So we have a demand function. Here demand function is dx equal to function of p, where dx is demand for a commodity which is shown to be a function of price. Any change in price will cause a change in demand. Let us consider an example here. Rachel purchases 2 units of candy when the price is rupees 10 per unit. When the price falls to rupees 8, she purchases more, that is 4 units. Further, when the price falls down to 6, she purchases 6 units of candies and so on. The falling price tempts Rachel to purchase more. It generally shows a consumer's tendency, like we all do. When price of a commodity falls, we tend to purchase more of it. Here we have a demand schedule. Demand schedule is nothing but here we have placed the price against the quantity that Rachel demands. See, when the price of the candy was rupees 10 per unit, she was demanding 2 units. I mean 2 candies. When price fell down to 8, she went on to demand 4 units, and like that we have shown a complete demand schedule. Here we have downward sloping demand curve. When we plot the points on a graph, what we obtain is a downward sloping demand curve. That is, the demand curve has a negative slope. The negative slope of demand curve simply means that when price of the commodity increases, the quantity demanded falls, and when price of the commodity falls, the quantity demanded increases. So we can see that when the price of the commodity is 10, Rachel was demanding 2 units. When the price fell down to 8, she was demanding 4. When it went down to further 6 units, she went on to demand 6, and so on. So we can conclude that demand curve is a downward sloping or has a negative slope. As price increases, the quantity demanded falls. As price falls, the quantity demanded increases.